All right, what's up, everybody? So we're going to try to make it through today with power, with some electricity. How many of you guys were here last week? That was interesting. So for those of you that were here, thank you for tolerating that. I know it was odd, but what do you do, right? So anyway, we're continuing our series this week called Warrior Poet Society. If you've been around for more than 15 months, you know that we did a series last year. And it was kind of like, if we think in terms of maybe TV series like season 1, because the problem is David is such a complex, fascinating character. There's just no way that we could get to all of David's life in one series. In fact, we're not going to get to all of it in 2 series. So I don't know, maybe a little foreshadowing, season 3 down the road, right? So anyway, in the first series, we covered kind of some of the earlier life of David. We kind of made it to the point where he became king. We talked last week about the exchange between Nathan and David, where David messed up, like as bad as you could possibly mess up. Nathan confronts him. We talked about how it's easier to see sin in other people than it is in ourselves. God, that one hurt, right? Like it's so much easier for me to see how dumb you are, and sometimes it's hard for me to see how dumb I am, right? Nope, nobody else? All right, cool. So anyway, this week we're gonna backtrack a little bit. I don't like to backtrack, but it worked out like that, right? How many of you guys don't mind backtracking? Like if you're driving, it's like, oh, I'll run back across town to get whatever. Y'all good with that? I hate it. I won't do it. I'll just, whatever I needed, I don't need it anymore. I'm not going. We'll get it on Amazon. I'm sorry. Like, it's just lazy, right? So here's the story. We're backtracking a little bit. So this is at the point when Saul is still the king, and David is under the authority of King Saul. And the problem with that is that at this point, Saul wants David dead. Not a good situation, right? Not the kind of situation you want to find yourself in. And so as you may remember, Saul becomes jealous and paranoid because of David's success. David becomes very popular. They wrote a song about him, put some bars together, right? There was a song. The song was, Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands. And if you put a beat to that, you could probably make it work. I mean, I think it's possible, right? So that was a chorus that was very common among the people. David was extremely popular. Saul did not like that, right? As the king, you want to be the most popular person in the kingdom. I mean, it seems to me. And so Saul realizes that the writing is on the wall, or the lips, or the words are on the lips of the prophet, maybe is a better way to say it. So Samuel approaches Saul, and he was like, because of your disobedience, which is, if you follow that thread, there is a fascinating story. It kind of even ties into the book of Esther and some stuff. You can Google that on your own. So because of your disobedience, I'm taking the kingdom away from you and I'm giving it to someone else. And David was the clear candidate. So Saul doesn't just like say mean things about David, like to try to hurt his feelings. He hurls spears at him to try to kill him. Like, it's not good. And so at this point in the story, if somebody's throwing spears at you, it's probably a good idea to get going, right? Like if you like maybe the Old West thing would be to get the heck out of Dodge, right? Just go, get somewhere else. And so at this point, David is on the run. And the expression that we're going to use today is on the lam. Y'all heard that one? How many of you guys have heard on the lam, right? On the run. So the title for today's message is Lessons on the Lam, because I love alliteration. So David is being pursued by Saul. Saul and some of his men want to kill him. David's got some of his own men, but it's probably not enough to confront the entire army of Saul. And also, more than that, David doesn't want to kill Saul because he views Saul's position as one orchestrated, ordained, purposed by God. He said that I'm not going to be the one who touches God's anointed. David has this very clear understanding of God's role, God's timing, God's place, God's purpose, and he doesn't want to be the one to mess with that. And so at times, this is kind of interesting, isn't David, this man who stood before Goliath seemingly without fear, is on the run. Doesn't seem very warrior-ish, does it? Doesn't seem very warrior-ish. It's like, wait, you're running from this dude, and you stood in front of a giant with a rock, right? Which kind of leads us to our first point. First point is this. Let's talk about a different kind of strength. There's a different kind of strength. I've always been fascinated. How many of you guys grew up playing Nintendo? Like, just throw it back a little bit, Nintendo. So generally, like anytime there was like an RPG, they would give you the option to have a couple of different characters. They would give you somebody who was like super fast, and then the character that was kind of in the middle who had some speed and some strength, and then they would give you the meathead. I would always pick the meathead. Just love, always been interested in strength, right? And here's what's kind of funny is like strength, courage does not always look like we think that it looks. It just doesn't always look like we think that it looks. Let me give you some context. 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 30 and 31, it says this. So there was a festival. Saul planned to kill David at this festival. And then Jonathan, who was Saul's son, who also happened to be David's best friend, they kind of concocted this plan. Jonathan's like, hey, bro, I think he's going to kill you. David's like, yeah, he's going to kill me. We need to find out for sure. And so the story goes that when Saul found out that David was not there, it says this. Then Saul's anger was aroused against Jonathan, and he said to him, this is kind of harsh, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman. Look that up in the NLT. It's even more interesting. And also, what kind of insult is that? You picked her. Right? It's like, that's your wife. I didn't choose my mom. You chose her. So why are you insulting me about the woman that you picked? Anyway, so you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? Spicy. For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Because if Saul was the king, then Jonathan was the next in line. But Saul understands now that the kingdom's taken away from him. It's given to David. And so he's trying to kind of work his own plan, not God's plan, but his own plan. And the way for him to make sure that this lineage is passed on is to remove David from the equation. So you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Now, therefore, send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. Like Saul is serious about getting rid of David. And then fast forward just a little bit, Jonathan and David had this plan where they would communicate as to what the next step would be. And then it says, then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, since we have both sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, may the Lord be between you and me and between your descendants and my descendants forever. So he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. David went on the run. David is on the lam. And again, so here we have this story where this man who stood before Goliath, like not just like did it because he had to do it, did it courageously and almost defiantly against the opinions of everyone around him. They're like, bro, what are you doing? And so he goes and stands and faces the giant, and as you know, like deals with this giant. How would he, in one hand, or one situation, in one circumstance, stand before David or stand before Goliath without fear, and he won't even face this washed-up warrior? Like Saul, who probably, by all accounts, was a has-been. He wouldn't do it. And I think it's because David understood it was not the right thing to do. It was not his timing. It was not his plan. It was not his purpose. It was not his concocting and finagling and working out his ideas and desires and wants. He wanted to do God's plan. He wanted to do God's will, and he was more interested in doing things in God's way, in God's timing, and letting God fight battles that only God can fight. There are battles in your life, and look, I know some of you, man, you strong, you bad, you tough, you resilient. Like, I get all of that, but there are battles that only God can fight in your life. And the strength that we need in those moments is the strength to know when to walk away. The strength to know when this is not for us. This is a battle that's bigger than I am capable of fighting on my own. So I don't need to mess this thing up. Because if I get in those battles, I mess stuff up. I make it so much worse. I don't do, and there will be situations where it feels like maybe that's the right thing to do. But if you look at it objectively, do the right thing. The right thing in some situations is a different kind of strength, a strength which would give you the courage to walk away. Which is not easy, right? That's where I think that the strength of that statement is the fact that it is incredibly hard sometimes to walk away. So not everything, not every incident, not every conflict, not every setback is intended to be a battle. It's not an opportunity necessarily for us to go on the offensive. Sometimes the strongest thing that we can do is to walk away. and let God fight battles that God can fight that you cannot fight. There are some situations where the right thing to do is walk away. There are some seemingly like retaliatory moments where revenge seems like the right thing, where the actual right thing to do is to walk away. And that takes real courage. That takes real strength. Man, I would go through, I can give you stories, like story after story after story, where I wanted to show what I thought strength was in a situation, show where I thought what was the appropriate response, and what I would call maybe going like nuclear warpath, like completely responding or defending or going on the offensive. And then there are times where, with the help of my spiritual discernment, also known as your wife, it is true. There have been times where I'm like, I'm ready. And justified, there have been situations where I probably had every right to, but it didn't make it the right thing. Y'all see the difference? There are times where people will say things about you that are completely unfounded and completely untrue, and you could respond. You have the right to respond, but it doesn't mean it's the right thing. And so I could go nuclear and go on a warpath, and Shelly's like, babe. It's always like, she's right. When you get the babe, she's usually right. Any married men know what I'm talking about? Are you afraid? You fear for your life? Give her flowers. Give her props, right? So in those moments, because this is the option. The option is I've got dynamite in hand. I can do a lot of damage. But God, with surgical precision, can remove obstacles in your life. And the outcome is peace, which is bizarre. It's so crazy because if I respond, it is not peace. It is debris. It is chaos. It is destruction. And I may feel right or think that it's right, but it doesn't make it right. So strength doesn't always look like you think, like I think that strength looks. It's a different kind of strength. What a good lesson from our warrior poet. Isn't that good? Next one. I'm going to call this point, old swords, new battles. Old swords, new battle. That's a good point, isn't it? Old swords, new battles. And this is probably one of the coolest full circle moments in David's life. So I'll give you the backstory. As you know, David goes and fights Goliath, goes with the sling and the stone, 5 smooth stones, goes, does the thing. You've seen the videos of the slings, right? This is not like a little toy slingshot where you just, and it hits him and falls off, and he's like a gnat, right? No, it's a smooth stone and a sling probably coming out at maybe 150, 180 miles per hour. The velocity is such that it sinks into his forehead. Crazy, right? And so anyway, that happens, but David doesn't stop there. And there's actually some speculation as to why. So David, when Goliath is on the ground, goes and takes Goliath's own sword, which is, there's a message in there, I'm sure, right? Takes his own sword and proceeds to cut his head off. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting. If you like all of the different like possibilities or variables, he cuts his own head off. Some people say to finish the job, right? Just to make for certain that the one who had defied the armies of the living God was dead for sure. You can't live if you ain't got no head. I haven't seen a situation where that is possible, right? Other people believe that the reason he did it was to intimidate the rest of the army of the Philistines. It's like, hey, here's your champion. Y'all want some? And everybody's like, oh, and they're gone, right? They checked out. And this one is probably the most interesting to me. So when Jesse, David's father, sent David to the front lines to check on his brothers, he wasn't even supposed to go there and fight. He was supposed to be checking up on his brothers. When he sent him, he said, bring me back a token to show me that your brothers are okay. Can you imagine a better token than the head of the giant who was terrorizing the kingdom, the nation of Israel? I thought that was, we don't know, speculation, but that's an interesting one. It's like, hey, Dad, look. It's the Philistines. It's the giant. It's Goliath. Brothers are okay, obviously, because I killed this dude. Pretty cool. So that part is speculation. But here is what we do know for sure. What we know for sure is that David took Goliath's armor, including his sword. This is what it says in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 54. It says, and David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but his armor but he put his armor in his tent. He took Goliath's armor, which would include his sword. Cool, right? Fast forward. You ready for this? So David now is on the run. He's running for his life from King Saul. And so this is kind of where we pick up the story. He heads north to a priestly village, a kind of a town called Nob, N-O-B. And we assume that he goes into the tabernacle where he there encounters a priest named Ahimelech. This is the story. 1 Samuel chapter 21, verses 8 and 9. I just killed that name, by the way, Ahimelech. If you guys are, anybody's expecting, that's a solid name. Think about it. You could call him. He's him. That's good. All right, anyway, back on track. David said to Ahimelech, is there not... So let me give you just a little bit more context. Ahimelech is actually kind of like, he's freaked out. Why is David here? And he's kind of concerned, and he's a little suspicious and cautious. So David tells him a story that he's actually, oh, well, the king sent me on this really kind of like secret, discreet mission, and can't tell anybody, and I had to leave so fast that I didn't take any of my stuff. And so then David says to Ahimelech, is there not here on hand a spear or a sword? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me because the king's business required haste. I had to go in a hurry, which was true, right? So the priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, there it is. Wrapped, now, just out of curiosity, why would something so valuable, so prominent, something that I would think would be memorialized, here it is, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. This thing is like just tucked away, hidden, almost discarded. It says, if you will take that, take it. For there is no other except that one here. It's the only weapon. Ahimelech tells David, it is the only weapon that is here. It's the only thing that you can use. Okay. And David said, this is the best response ever. And David said, there is none like it. Give it to me. There is none like it. Give it to me. I love that. And here's where it gets personal, instructive for us. You want to talk about something that is useful from that message? David's previous battles are what will be empowering him in his current situation. The things that he had gone through, the battles that he had won are what are making it possible, sustaining him, carrying him through his current situation. Y'all need me to make that personal for you? The battles from your past are the weapons for your future. The battles from your past, the things that you've gone through are the weapons for your future. The thing that you will use, the resources that you will have, the experiences that you have, the strength that you have from your battles in your past are the weapons for your futures. You didn't just go through that struggle for no good reason. Like sometimes I wonder if we fall into this idea of like, well, life is hard, it's got struggles, and I just struggle because I struggle. Or because we don't go through hardship and adversity for God's viewing pleasure, like God's watching our life like a soap opera, and he's like, oh, this is kind of entertaining, watching my people struggle, watching them go through adversity, watching them go through hardship. You're going through that, and it's something that if you will allow it, God can use to help you in future battles. It is forging a weapon that you will wield down the road. My preaching is way better than your amen in this morning. And that's okay. That's okay. Y'all picked me up last week, this week. Got to do better, right? So, and here's the best part about that is like those weapons that you hold now because of the battles that you faced in your past, it's not just for you. It doesn't just benefit you. It doesn't just protect you. It doesn't just help you. It just doesn't just, advance your life and your experience and your growth with God. It helps other people too. God does not waste anything in our lives. He doesn't waste anything. Everything, what is Romans 8:28? For all things. All of those old experience. And so let's go back to that story real quick. Let's go back to this story. It was the only thing there. The only thing there is the only thing you need. God, that was a good point. It's a really good point, church. If I have to tell you that it's a good point, maybe it's not as good of a point as I thought it was, or the only thing that you want me to make it kind of like, let's make it real. All you got is all you need. All you have, everything that you've got right now is what you need to go through whatever it is that you're facing. So that could be because of the experiences in your past. It could be because of the experiences of others who are with you, walking with you through whatever it is that you're going through. All you have is all that you need. The only thing that was in the tabernacle was the sword, and it was the only thing that he needed. There is none like it. Give it to me. That's good. Last point. Last lesson on the Lamb. So the first one, strength doesn't always look like we think it does, like what maybe we're led to believe that it is. Strength sometimes is the strength to walk away. Strength sometimes is the strength to stay quiet. Strength sometimes is the ability to not fire up your Twitter fingers, right? Sometimes strength, and think about so we have a perfect example of this. It was Jesus who was led like a lamb to the slaughter, didn't say a word, had every right to, but he chose not to, and that is real strength. And then the second one is all you got is all you need. Them old swords are for new battles, right? And then the last one, we're going to call this is fun, we're going to call it a loony lesson. Loony lesson. So what's cool, if you go through the rest of that chapter, we've kind of been in 1 Samuel chapter 21. The last 5 or 6 verses of 1 Samuel are interesting, kind of bizarre. And so immediately after he leaves, it says this, then David arose and fled that day from before Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. So he kind of has to go into, for his own safety, while he's running, has to go into unfriendly territory. And this is what it says. The servants of Achish said to him, is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing of him to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s? Now David took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. David is vulnerable still, right? He doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have, this massive army with him. He's in enemy territory. And this is what he did. It says, so he changed his behavior before them, pretended madness in their hands, scratched on the doors of the gate, and this is the best part, and let his saliva fall down on his beard. My boy is drooling. He's drooling. One translation where it says that he scratches on the gate says he's scribbling on the gate. He's probably playing tic-tac-toe on the gate and got drool running down his beard, and they're like, this dude is crazy. He's crazy. Then Achish said to his servants, look, you see the man is insane. Why have you brought him to me? Have I need of a madman? Did I ask for somebody to bring me entertainment? Have I need of a madman that you have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? And the answer is no. So David acts like a madman, and actually it saves his life, because then he moves on from there and continues to go on the run. So what do you do with that, right? What's the point of a crazy story like that? And here's the point. You ready for this? Sometimes doing the right thing will make you look like a mad person. Isn't that good? I was very excited about this point. Sometimes doing the right thing will make you look like a mad person. When you're doing what you believe is the right thing that God has called you to do, when you're doing what you believe that God has called you to do, it's not always going to make sense to other people. It's not always going to make sense to other people. There are things that others do that you're not going to do, and it's not going to make sense to them. They're like, man, he's just, he's different, a little crazy, a little out there, right? There are things that others won't do that you will do. There are things that you'll do. There are places that you'll go. There are things that you will try that others won't, because you choose to do the right thing, even if they don't approve of it. They think you're crazy. They think you've lost your mind. That's okay, because doing the right thing can make you look like a madman, and that's fine, because our purpose is more than to impress people. We're not here, we want to be liked, and we want to have relationships with people, and we want to encourage people and all of those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, we're not here to impress people. You're not here to impress me. I'm not here to impress you. We are here to honor the sacrifice of Jesus' life on the cross. That's what we're here to do. And in doing that, sometimes we'll do things or we won't do things that make people look at us sideways and they think, man, this dude is different. Something is wrong. He's crazy. He's a prude. He's uptight. He's a goody two-shoes. Whatever. Say whatever it is that you want to say. But to me, doing the right thing, even if it makes you think that I'm a madman, I'm still going to do the right thing. Good morning, church. Y'all, at the very end, you come in. That's good. Appreciate that. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18. Let's finish it with this. It says this, for the message of the cross, the message of Jesus giving his life for, you want to talk about crazy. How crazy is that? That the one who knew no sin became sin on my behalf. That doesn't make sense. That's foolishness. That's wild. That's nonsensical. It's unfair. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. So maybe, it may be that when you live your life and you're trying to do the right thing and you're trying to please God and you're trying to honor God with the way that you walk and everything that you say and all that you do, it may be that people think you're crazy, and that's okay. Because it could be the thing that saves your life, right? Our objective here is to live a life that pleases and honors God, that recognizes the sacrifice that Jesus was willing to make on the cross for us, and we're just trying to honor him. If you look at me sideways, if you think I'm different, if you think I'm a mad person, if you think I'm crazy, that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm ultimately here to please one person, Jesus. That's it. So be a little crazy. In fact, there's what is it? Come out from among them and be separate is one version or one verse that we get. There's another one in Peter. It tells us to be different, and to be different means you gotta not look the same and do the same things and go the same places and act the same way and respond the same way and be upset about the same things. It just means that maybe we're a little bit crazy. Maybe we're a bunch of mad people, and that's okay. It's a good lesson from our warrior poet. Amen? So lessons on the Lamb. Number one, strength doesn't always look like we think that it does. The strength, it's the strength to be quiet sometimes. It's the strength to walk away sometimes. Discernment will let you know, and there are people sometimes who are helping us with that, right? When you should respond, when the right thing to do is to respond, but also when the right thing to do is to walk away. The battles that you've gone through are not for nothing. There is purpose in everything in our lives. And so those old swords and new battles is a real thing. And then the last thing is hey, look, you're going to be considered crazy sometimes, and that's perfectly fine. It's crazy for you to live this life, to give your life in service to others, to give your life to Jesus and do what he wants instead of what you want. Some people are going to think that's crazy. That's okay. We're not here to impress them. We're here to impress, to honor, to respect, to revere, and to worship Jesus. Amen? Let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you for modeling that last point in your time here on earth. God, you made everything that you did about the will of God in your life, the mission that you were on, the purpose that you had. That's all that mattered. God, you weren't concerned with the opinions of other people with respect to the thing that you had to do, what had to be accomplished, what needed to be done. I'm sure they thought you were crazy. I'm sure they thought that the cross was foolishness. I'm sure that even today, God, they think that people who give their lives to follow, to serve, to give up preferences, to give up pleasures in the name of honoring the one who gave everything for us, some may think that's crazy, and that's okay. Because we'd rather honor you than be popular with people. God, I pray for real strength for every person in this room. God, wisdom to know when to fight, when to flee. And in the moments when it's time to flee, God, that you would give them the courage to maybe not respond how they want to respond, but to respond the right way, to do the right thing. God, I pray that you would give us the ability to see how you've used our experiences, our past, our battles, to create us, to make us who we are today so that we're capable of fighting the battles that are in our future. God, that those old swords and new battles is a real thing. Jesus, we love you. We're so thankful for these lessons from Scripture. God, that thousands of years, the test of time, God, these lessons are just as true today as they were then. And I pray that we would take them to heart. In Jesus' name, amen.